Everybody, it's Romania Black, and we're on episode 9 of TBHX, and I am a bit concerned. Because last week, episode 8, my lucky number is, of course, we met Lucky Cyan, who has a very tragic backstory. I'm like, Lee Hao Lin, look, I know Lin Ling is the commoner, and he has the best backstory so far of all our characters, but you're not going to make every character we meet have a horrifically tragic backstory, right? You're not going to do that, are you? Probably. I'm hoping not. I'm hoping that there is a little variance in the tragedy upon tragedy upon tragedy, because I need, variety is the spice of life, but also you need that contrast, you need that dimension. So I'm hoping that that's the case. But so far, I'm worried because so far Cyan has met Calamity, which I'm not going to say anything about it right now, but I want Calamity and Cyan to have a happy ending, even if they amicably part ways as friends. I don't want Calamity to either, one, die, because that seems to be a trend in this show, or two, even worse, I got the idea this morning as I was reading the comments. I was like, I wonder if they're going to try to, with this could be spoiler that I read, I was like, I wonder if they're going to try to pit and do like what Nice and Wreck was and make Cyan and Calamity like hero and villains against each other, and if the trust values are going to manipulate them and their feelings, and that would be really dumb. I was like, we've already done that. We've already done that with Nice and Wreck. We don't need to see it a second time. But then I thought, she does all these concerts, and she's more of like a pop idol than a superhero. So maybe that won't be what happens. Maybe that will be a nice, like, it goes in a different new direction. So I don't know. We're 9 episodes in. We're not quite halfway through the series, so we'll just see what we get. But I'm very nervous. And so we'll see what happens. But I have a couple comments to go through for episode 7 and episode 8, as it were. For episode 7, R*6709 says, minor clarification. It's not only the top 10 who live in the tower. We see Lin Ling and Firm Man 15th place, but are still living there. I thought that Lin Ling and Firm Man didn't move into the tower till they moved up to 10th place, but I am probably wrong on that, so it's good to get that clarification. Daewoo3YY says, I believe surviving Isol is Yang Cheng, simply because the old Isol doesn't seem like the kind of person who would shoot Moon, but the person Yang Cheng turns into, I could see him shooting Moon. Yeah, when I read that comment, I was like, that is a good point, because we don't get clarification for sure or confirmation, but I agree. I can't see old Isol shooting Moon. I don't see that being in his, like, the way that he thinks, so that's a really good point. And it kind of goes along with John Smith's comment for episode 7, saying, I suspect that Uncle Rock, as the owner, forced him into this position, drowning old Isol into PR work in the lead up to the anniversary so that Yang Cheng would stand out more as an active hero. He gambled that the old Isol would deliberately go after Yang Cheng and did so successfully. Even when we, the viewers, got fooled into thinking that the old Isol was doing nothing because all his hero work got pushed off screen while Yang Cheng's was displayed front and center. This ties to why he banned Yang Cheng from the competition. It's not that he wanted Yang Cheng as Isol, it's that he wanted to kill the old Isol. Yang Cheng was just a pawn, and it's a bonus that he survived. Yeah, again, I talked about it in the intro of episode 8. It still is like, I wish we'd had a little bit more time to get why he hated the old Isol, because like I talked about last episode in the intro, old Isol, even though he wasn't like perfect, he still was like really high in popularity, and he was still doing very well. So like, why kill him off when he's making you money? That part doesn't make sense. Unless you're trying to get Mr. Shang out, and then his son dying causes him to leave Mighty Glory, and then you take over, and you're like, well, we need to just start anew. But that is the one thing about the narrative that's irking me. It's like, you had something that was making you money. Why do you care to get rid of it? I'm like, it just doesn't make sense. So anyway, but whatever. Episode 7 is behind us, so we don't need to go back to it until the very end when we compare which arc is better than the others. Because we've been talking in the Discord this morning about which arc is better so far, because some people have commented about that, and I'm like, I don't really want to make a judgment about that. I don't like doing the whole, so far it's the best. And I'm like, because the next arc could be even better, and then it just completely makes your viewpoint not matter. So I'm probably not gonna like, I'll probably rank the arcs at the very end. I'm gathering the suspicion that this is all just gonna be different arcs of various heroes, and they're all gonna come together in the end. And if I don't see resolution about Isol's shooting Moon, Lee Howlin when I find you. But yeah, so we'll just have to see. But the last comment for episode 7, Re8885, says, quote, "People have always asked me why I never removed my mask for 34 years of being a hero. And I've had many chances to remove my mask, but this isn't just a mask. This is the trust that I'm unwilling to betray, along with all the hope it carries. It reminds me constantly to cherish that courage and the justice in your hearts," which is what old Isol said in episode 5. They said old Isol chose to keep the mask on. He's from a bygone vigilante era where the mask mattered more than personal fame. In a way, it's another expression of the mantra that anyone can be a hero as long as you wear the mask with courage and justice. It's probably why old Isol actively endorsed legions of actor impersonators and focused most of his merch around his gear. I've seen lots of people compare Mr. I don't need anyone to cheer for me, Lin Ling, to Yang Chung, but I really haven't seen this comparison to old Isol. I am really glad that they said this because that is literally why I was kind of... I know people like Yan Chung. They think he's a very complex character, and he's literally Anakin Skywalker and all of this, and he's got Batman origins. But I'm gonna... This is my controversial hot take, and y'all bear with me. I kind of like old Isol better. And maybe it's because I'm closer in age to old Isol and I've been around the block and I've got life experience and I can relate better to him. But I just feel like old Isol's kind of way of thinking, I get more. I get him being jaded and wore down by the system. I feel like that's so complicated and interesting. Whereas Yan Chong is very relatable, and I'm sure a lot of younger people can relate to him. And if I was like 22, I would be like relating to Yan Chong so much and would like be on the same page. But being 38 and looking at him, or almost 38 and looking at him, I'm like, and I don't want to say he has to grow up because he's grown up way too early. He lost his parents at a young age, and I feel it's very condescending to him. And I don't want to say that, but I just look at him and I go, you have no clue the other side. You are basing it all on your own selfish inclinations. Yan Chong is a very selfish character. He is self-obsessed. He only is concerned, and which now, in hindsight, him being a villain makes sense. He has always been kind of self-centered and self-obsessed. It just wasn't harmful to others and himself until it became harmful to others and himself. Whereas old Isol was kind of like, there's all these complexities about like the system that he became a part of, and when did he become jaded? When did he lose hope? When did he tried to adhere to this mantra that was outdated in the time that they were living in? And I just find that so complex. And I love Lin Ling's character. And the fact that that's what, whenever I read this comment, I'm like, that's why I like old Isol, because he's functioning along a similar paradigm as Lin Ling. Now, will Lin Ling have a more nuanced and modern approach to it since he's from the same generation as Yang Chong? We'll have to see when the series chooses, if they even choose to go back to him. So I'm very curious about that. But yeah, I just really like old Isol's character. And I think my least favorite part about that arc, I loved the arc we just watched, but I think my least favorite part is we didn't get a lot with him. And there's so much you could do with his character, and not getting his inner thoughts beyond what we got in episode 5. It hurts. But anyway, so in relation to episode 8, now that we've started the Lucky Cyan arc, the only comment I have is one that is between Moomin and Tiny Truck. Because I talked about like when they were asking Cyan to choose like the funeral date, I was like, that's so morbid. Why would you do that? Moomin and Tiny Truck give some cultural context, saying, so picking a date for a funeral. We are talking auspicious days here. When I heard that, I assumed that the father was already deceased and they were trying to plan a memorial. For that, you would consult a calendar or a fortune teller, a feng shui master, a Buddhist priest, a calendar. Red days are good, black days are bad. I'm sure the person asking wanted to know what a good and lucky day to have this event take place would be. And that's so sad because one, you have those resources. You have the calendars, the priests, whatever. Go find them. Quit asking a child and bombarding them. Like, just because you think it's lucky. But that's the song and dance from last episode. So we shall see. We shall see what this episode gives. I would love to have the optimism that Cyan and Calamity will get out okay. But this series, 8 episodes in, is giving the Takapi's Original Sin effect of there aren't going to be any happy endings. And I'm like, But we'll see. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. So I want to be surprised by shows, and we'll see if I end up being. We're only 9 episodes in, so we have to consider that in mind. But I've wasted all of your time for 10 minutes. We need to dive in. Anyway, we're not going to waste any more time. We are going to dive right into To Be Hero X episode 9, and we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Okay. We're not bringing Whiteboard Kun out for this week because the only math that I would really have to do on Whiteboard Kun is figuring out. I'm pretty sure that when episode 8 ended, it was 34 years after the Heroes Commission. And we talked about it on Whiteboard Kun last week, that when Isol and all that business with Yang Chong was going on, it was 36 years after the commission. And we end this episode at 36 years. So there's been 2 years. 2 years of time between Cyan escaping and the concert that we see at the end of this episode. Do I think that that concert is the same concert as the one where Jia Qing is at? I don't know. It would be interesting timing, but I don't know if it is. Back in the episodes where Yang Chong was getting the tickets, he was saying that she was up and coming. So she had started touring when in the year 36. Now, whether or not it's the actual year, whether or not that concert we see at the end is the concert that Jia Qing is at, I don't know. It doesn't have to be. She could have just started her tour. That was the first. I want to say it's not. I want to say that it's not the concert that Jia Qing is at, because by the time that Yang Chong got the tickets and everything for that concert, she'd already been doing other shows. And this show at the very end seems like the first concert of her tour, like kicking off everything. So that leads me to believe that this is not the concert that Jia Qing was at, but in the same tour that she's doing, one of these up-and-coming concerts is going to be the one that Jia Qing is at while Yang Chong and old Isol are duking it out. Now, how that ties into what Calamity is doing, who I believe is... We're going to save all of Romania's negativity towards this episode until the very end, because some people on YouTube don't like seeing people talk negatively about shows that they like, and I understand that. You're here to watch me gush and have a good time. So we're going to save that. We're going to put that all in the little Calamity corner. The Calamity corner at the end of the episode, and then I can rant. So for now, we're not going to rant. For now, we're just going to talk about the episode and what happens in it and go from there. So we're just going to do that. We're going to focus on the positives first, and then I'm going to rant at the end. And if you don't want to listen to it, you don't have to listen to it, right? So here in 3, 2, 1. I had someone in the comments ask if when I was going to watch the OP and ED, when the mods tell me I can. Because again, one word of spoilers and I've pretty much figured out an arc, apparently. So you guys got to be careful. So I can't watch the OP. I will instantly make connections, and I don't like figuring things out before they happen. I like being surprised, and I'm not trying to be, kind of arrogant about that, but we're going to talk about in the Calamity Corner. We're going to call it the Calamity Corner from now on in this series, the Calamity Corner. So anyway, I do really love this little scene that we get that kind of is the prelude to them breaking out. I really do like this, where he gets this guitar. The Dean bought this guitar. I do want to talk about this. So the Dean taking Lo, we find out his name is Lo. The Dean taking Lo in Calamity and saying because he didn't cause any trouble for a whole year, he got the guitar. We have to think about a couple things. Was he waiting to see? This Dean is creepy, and this Dean gives very groomer vibes. He gives very, like, if Professor X was evil vibes. We'll talk about it when he tells her about the whole, like, institute for the heroes here in a second. But I was wondering when he said he had to wait a whole year. I was wanting to see, like, maybe he was seeing what the chemistry between Lo and Cyan was, and to see if he, like, was compatible with her, if their luck's balanced, if his presence made a difference with her luck. It doesn't. So that's interesting. But yeah, whenever he starts playing, though, here's the thing. When he starts playing, it's like, what is this? It looks really cool. And it has the stuff come off of it. That's the thing. He hit the green little tints that come off. He seems like his ability, I know it's supposed to be like bad luck, but in that moment, I question everything. The moment he plays a guitar and the little green flits come off of it, I was like, that's her ability. Why do you have something similar to her ability? Why has it been bad luck? Has it been your mindset? Have people convinced him that he has bad luck, and so he just subconsciously thinks that, and so that's affecting things? Because throughout episode 8, whenever he was around her, she still had good luck. Which, if his powers were truly bad luck, you would think that they would counterbalance her good luck and it would just even out and she wouldn't have any luck at all. But that's not what happened. Instead, she still had good luck and he didn't really have any bad luck at all. So it kind of makes me question, like, has he just been told he has bad luck and he's believed it and that's impacted? Because we've spent the last several episodes talking about how your view of yourself reinforces the trust value and reinforces how you think. Yan Chong is a prime example. He was self-obsessed with his own trust value and believed he was worthless, and that kind of contributed to him actually being worthless. So if Calamity believes he's bad luck, then yeah, it's going to get reinforced in this world because that's how the trust values affect people. So whenever this green light came off the guitar, I was like, oh, he may not have bad luck at all. It's just his perception of his luck. And that brings up a whole host of things. Like, what do we do with that? Like, they both seem like two sides of the same coin. I mean, we just got done talking about Darth Vader with Yang Chong. Surely they're not siblings. Surely they're not siblings. Surely they're not, two sides of the same coin and they both have luck powers and they both survived the plane crash. One was picked up by Liu, the reporter, and the other one was not. Surely not. Surely they weren't. Surely this is not a Luke Skywalker and Princess Leia situation. But I mean, if it was, it would make sense because the dean would have wanted the pair together to try to amplify the luck, but I don't know. Surely not. No, surely not. No. Surely it isn't. But anyway, it seems like he has the same ability that she does, which makes me question everything, like that it's just perception. Of course, when he gives her the guitar, she instantly can just play like Robert Plant, just immediately dives into it and is perfect, right? I do like the music in the show. I do like the music. I appreciate that it's in English. I can understand it. I feel bad there's no subtitles for those that are watching. But I do appreciate it. And they both have such beautiful singing voices. I'm not usually a big fan, and this isn't for the Calamity Corner, I'm not usually a fan of just bursting into song. It's like the Leah Michelle Glee effect, where she's like, oh, I couldn't possibly sing, and then she like reaches behind her and grabs a mic. So I'm not usually a fan of that. It doesn't feel true to the world to just burst into song. But here, because they both have kind of been singing around each other and practicing and doing that, it makes sense. I'm okay with it. And it is a cute song. And I did like her guitar playing and stuff later when she's on the streets busking. That part was really good. I liked that. But yes, they both have this great moment together, just having the, like, singing along, and they each have their rooms and everything. And he's like, has my technique improved? She's like, well, has it? And he's like, hey, now, then you sing. And she's like, no. I like that she says here, she's like, I sing every day and I have to do whatever they tell me. She's like, I don't want to do it anymore. I'm tired. And I like that he respects her. And he's like, you're always singing those lame songs. So it definitely seems like they both kind of they both make the decision to kind of sing their own song. And that's when she escapes. Now, I don't know if they just call him Lo instead of Calamity or if that's his actual name. But he's like, I'm reciting my textbook. So the nun doesn't know that Cyan is there. Interesting. She's already so noisy even as an adult. So this is when Calamity says that I heard the reason the dean built this orphanage was to nurture the heroes among us. Instantly like X-Men, dark X-Men vibes. If you don't know what X-Men is, it's a Western series. It has been a comic book. It's been adapted into movies, cartoons, etc. But the concept is that mutants are, it's kind of like the heroes a little bit. Mutants have abilities. They have special abilities that are different than normal humans. And only in that series, they're persecuted for them rather than celebrated, like being heroes. But Professor Xavier, who is a professor that is like the bald version in a wheelchair of our dean here, decides to construct this academy to teach those with those mutant abilities to become basically heroes and to be accepted and celebrated by society instead of oppressed. So that is the most basic watered down version of that entire series I could give you without going into details. But in that series, Professor X is nurturing those mutants, but doing it out of the kindness of his heart and to make them better people. Here, it's kind of a twisted, dark version of that, where the dean is using this orphanage to nurture those latent abilities to self-serve themselves. And they get a little bit into the idea of he was once a hero himself, which I wanted to kind of see what that, she's like, why nurture heroes? And he's like, oh, because he believes everyone's abilities can be shaped starting their formative years. Again, it's grooming. I don't like to use that word lightly, but it is, he essentially is doing it to self-serve himself. Now, this image of the guitar with the purple waves coming off of it that's behind Calamity here, I thought that was interesting because she draws people in with the sound from her guitar kind of emanating and radiating out. I wondered before we got her taking the guitar with her when she escaped, I thought if, he was going to keep the guitar and use it as a weapon. So maybe that'll end up happening later on. I don't know. We'll have to see. But okay, so we get this. The hero thing with him. Why is he in the sweater vest in the Hero magazine? But he is. And this certifies that, and he's got this star and everything in this trophy. He was a hero himself. Which, on the surface, I can see now why Liu took Cyan to him. Liu was like, oh, this guy was once a hero, and he stepped away. We're going to talk about that. Stepped away to form this orphanage out of the kindness of his heart. And Cyan seems like she'd be a perfect fit for there. And knowing that the dean has this kind of rapport and this reputation, it makes sense now why Liu went to him and not just like some random orphanage. Makes sense why he chose this one. And I'm sure that that's by design. Although the question of whether the dean left, disgraced or not remains to be seen. I think this is interesting that here in this image of him, he has like this white and black, this black and white motif to him, which he looks like a lot younger here. His hair looks more like auburn than gray. But his waves, the tentacles coming across from him are like magma. They're like lava, which is going to make the ending part of him with the purple surrounding him. Is that Luo's ability or his own? I think it's Luo's. I think it is. I think that the dean has just been affected by it. Because otherwise, why wouldn't it be red? Why would it be purple? Also, I like the idea that here his ability is manifest in a way that everyone can see it. But when he attacks Cyan and Luo later on, it's invisible. So it's kind of like it's symbolic of him like pulling the strings in behind the scenes where no one can see that it's him. I do appreciate that symbolism. That's really clever. I like that. I like that it doesn't call itself out, but it's right there. I want to see the front version of that outfit because I want to see what it looks like. So, he didn't remain in the public eye for long. There are reasons for that. And that is why I question the whole like validity of the Hero magazine and him stepping away gracefully and everything. I don't know. In this society, in this world, Firm Man left on his own accord because he wanted to. Moon left on her own accord because she wanted to. I don't get the vibes that the dean left on his own accord because he wanted to. I feel as if they forced him to leave for reasons that we don't know yet. And he definitely gives off the vibe. Also, look at how the wood paneling makes an X. Clever indeed. Yeah, it makes an X there. He also says now he pushes his hopes onto us. That's the thing. He gives off the vibe of pushing those hopes onto others. I think that's really important to note because that's a huge difference. Like Professor X is accomplished in his own right. He has his own mutant abilities, and so he can stand on his own. He's not reliant upon any of the other mutants in X-Men to represent him or to make himself look better or to push himself up, whatever. He has his own abilities. He can stand on his own. He's just complimenting all of his students and helping them rise to his level. With the Dean, it seems like the Dean has sunk back to the same level as the rest of humanity, and he's trying to live out his glory days through Cyan, through the other kids that he's trying to make heroes, rather than just accept the fact that he's not the hero that he once was. And there's a huge difference there. So I get the ick vibe from the Dean, a major ick vibe from the Dean, indeed. And he's like, he's pushing all his hopes on you. And of course, Cyan's like, I don't want a hero. And he's like, well, yes, you are. You've got to be more confident. And she's like, ah. And he's like, well, we should head back before she does her rounds again. And catches you here. He's like, I'll walk you back. So I don't know what they are delivering to 36 boxes. And it seems like they've come here every day. What are they delivering to this orphanage? Is it food? I mean, I guess I could understand, but usually food shipments come like once a week or something. I work at a large school that gets shipments for thousands of people, and they get like shipments like every 2 to 3 weeks. So I'm like, what do you get 30 boxes a day for? Like every other day? Because clearly, I mean, maybe the concert they have is after this and this is leading up to it, but I wish we could have found out what they were actually getting done there. I do like that they set this up, that the guy has not been, it is a good setup and payoff that the guy has not been sleeping. And so he's just like, he's tired and he keeps, in the US, we have laws, because I have friends that drive semis for a living. And there are laws in the US where you can only drive, and I have family that drove semis as well, where you can only drive these trucks a certain amount of time before you have to stop and sleep. Like in the state that I live in, it's like you can drive for 10 hours and then you have to stop and sleep for 10 hours. It's like a 10 and 10. So it's to mainly keep you from falling asleep at the wheel and doing what he does in this episode. I don't know how China's rules go. I don't know how Chinese rules for truck driving work, but in the US, it's usually like in my state, 10 hours of driving, 10 hours of sleep, which is logistic. I've drove 10-hour trips before. You're tired by that 10th hour. So I do like the setup and payoff of the truck driver in this. And it also gives the exposition. I don't know who this one guy is, but he basically reveals that the Dean is trying to make Cyan into a good luck charm. Now, again, she's becoming a good luck charm, and the Dean, it's straight out of the Dean's mouth. Now, I know we have the Calamity Corner, and I'm going to mention this again in the Calamity Corner if I can remember, but I want to talk about it right now. I want you to keep in mind that Lo has heard the Dean lie. He basically has heard that the Dean is a liar because he's been telling them one thing, and then this guy has revealed that the Dean cannot be trusted with anything that he says. These are not babies. These are not little kids. These are teenagers who can figure 1 + 1 = 2. They have just heard in this moment that the Dean cannot be trusted, that he's a liar, and that he's a manipulating person. We're just going to put a little pin in that. A little pin in that for now. We're just going to put a pin in that. That has been known. That has been proven by the show. It has been set up. Both characters are aware the Dean cannot be trusted. And that leads them to making the decision to, we're going to now perform a concert and escape the orphanage. We're going to do that. So anyway, we're going to get past the intro. Past the intro. And so yeah, we go back to them escaping. I didn't mind that recap at all. I thought it was really good and it helped set everything up, so it was warranted for it to be there. Also, I appreciate that the Dean is not someone to be messed with and that they try to escape. And he's like, you have nowhere to go. I do want to take, again, we're going to save it for the Calamity Corner. We're going to save it for the Calamity Corner. We're just going to go back through and save it for the Calamity Corner. But so Cyan gets captured by him and is held by him. And he's like, I gave you every opportunity to do good for all these people. And she's like, leave me alone. He does make a good point here, saying, do you know how hard it is to gain trust value? He does bring up a very good point with that. I feel like a lot of the villains or jaded heroes in this series have firsthand experience of having difficulty gaining trust values. And so he's very jaded to that concept, and it kind of influences him in bad ways. I mean, we saw that with Yan Chong. We're seeing it with the dean now. That is a very good note to bring up. I appreciate that Calamity, like, goes to rescue her and then uses the guitar and throws the guitar to her. The guitar has, like, this purple aura to it, which is why I thought the guitar would be tied to his abilities. What's interesting is that she keeps putting the tape around the guitar, so the guitar, as time goes on, becomes less his guitar and more hers. It goes from the red to the cyan, which is interesting, you know? But I love Calamity for what he does in saving her and risking his life to do so. And he's like, run for it. And he even tells her, he's like, you've got the luck. They can't stop you. And then okay, what's also interesting is I thought that her hair was going to change color when she stopped having the luck, but it really doesn't. It's lighter on top than it is on bottom in that too. It looks kind of sun bleached there as well. So that had nothing to do with the moment itself. So that's good to clarify. But yeah, I was not expecting the truck thing to come back and for him to be asleep at the wheel and cause the accident. Kudos to the show for surprising me, because it was a great, like, instant callback to that moment and payoff, like setup and payoff. Loved that. That worked really great. But yeah, I also want to say it's interesting to note that the dean ended up saving Calamity. He's like, you've got a jinx over here. That is important to note. Is Calamity a jinx? Because even though, here's the thing, I think it's all self-imposed. I think that Calamity's just convinced himself that he's a jinx. Because she's told to run away, and she runs away. Now, if she thought he was dead from that moment, I would have been like, okay, girl, you think that he's dead. But we're going to go back to that notion, that concept of that. Because if she thought he was dead and thought that both of them were dead, I would understand and forgive a lot of things. But there's been things said since this moment that I'm going to bring up in the Calamity Corner that I'm like, we need context. We need things revealed next episode about, because we'll see. But anyway, I don't think Calamity is bad luck, because when the guy goes and looks, there's Lo. He's basically touching the dean. The dean did use his powers to stop in that moment what was going on, but he's hurt there, but they both lived. So I'm like, I think that he's not bad luck. And then here we see the dean using his powers and the color of the power kind of shifting and shaking. So maybe the power at the end is the dean's. I don't know. We'll see. But I don't know. He used the power to save them. So interesting. I want more. I need more information. Why would she do such a thing? We're going to talk in the Calamity Corner about that. But if she's been wanted for causing this disaster, why is it never brought up again? Why do people instantly go out and find her from the church to get her good luck and not question the whole incident that happened? Why is it not news? Why is no one being told about this? Why does Liu not find it? Liu's a damn freaking journalist. How did he not figure out about this? We're going to talk about it in the Calamity Corner. But anyway, so how will we pray from now on? That's a scary concept, that people are so self-reliant upon another individual and not self-reliant upon themselves. That's a problem. And look, I'm not going to get on a high horse with AI. I hate AI so much. I think it's destroying the young generation's brain. I think people are becoming stupider because they can't think for themselves. And AI is a big contributor to that. So don't use AI. Make yourself smarter so you can survive in this world. Don't be a sheep that's using AI, because it's like concepts like this. How are we going to pray? Figure it out, Oh my God, I'm not going to get on that soapbox. Anyway, it is a good note to bring up, and it shows how self-reliant these people are. I also like the fact that the guitar strap and stuff on the guitar is broken, and her taping up the guitar makes a lot of sense, and her kicking off the shoes. So this episode's called Loss and Gain. It's really funny that she lays down next to a shop that's literal name is Lucky. That's a bit on the nose. So she gets there and she's really sad. And I hate that she's so sad about Lo, because literally, if you think your friend is dead, what do you do? And she's like, he'll be okay. So that's the line there. She's like, he'll be okay. So she doesn't think he's dead. She doesn't think he's dead. She thinks she's really sad about what's happened, but she's like, he'll be okay. She doesn't think he's dead. Also, again, we'll talk about in the Calamity Corner, but girl, do you think he'll be okay? I don't think he'd be okay. I'd be like, that Dean literally tried to, trap us both. Why would you think he'd be okay? I guess she has faith that he'll get out. But, girl, you... Anyway, so she's singing her song, sings her song there, which it is a good song. I don't know what Passel... Why does that say shit? It says Passel shitio? Or is it hoitish? Hoitus laps sap? What does that mean? What is Passel shitio? I'm going to look this up. Passel shitio. What does that mean? What does that mean? I don't know. I don't know what that means. And I don't think there's a translation. I don't think there's a translation anywhere, but what? I wish there was a translation. There's not. Interesting. Anyway, so she sits down by the store, starts playing her guitar, which I understand. She's used music as a form of expression. I kind of joked being like, girl, this ain't the time for a song. But it does make sense for her character that when she's distressed, she's relied upon music as a form of escapism, as a form of giving herself agency, as a form of just giving herself something to focus on. So her singing the song here on the guitar makes a lot of sense. Now, when she gets done with the song, she's thinking about them as well. And she's like, what is the name of the song? I feel like I've heard it somewhere before. And he says, oh, I wrote it myself. It's called My Color. I wish I could hear the lyrics better because I'm like, what is that? What does My Color have to do with the song? It's a melody that's been floating around my mind as long as I can remember. That's another sign that I'm like, when she says she's heard it before and he said he's wrote it, I'm like, did you two know each other? Are you two siblings? Did you know each other before the plane crash when you were little kids? That's leading me to think that maybe that is the case. She's like, I feel like I've heard it before. And maybe not. Maybe she has heard it and he sampled music from somebody else. It's got to be my songwriting because it's so good it touched your heart. And she's like, ha ha ha. So I don't know. Maybe he was performing, but she was like 4 or 5 when the plane crashed. So there's no way, he could have been playing guitar that young, but I don't think so. So maybe they were both, maybe their parents sang it to him. Maybe they are siblings. Maybe they were both at the same airport at the same time and she got on the plane and he didn't. I don't know. But I think her reflecting on how the song seems similar is a fact that they knew each other before coming here. And again, there's the question of fate versus manipulated circumstances as to why they've met each other here. She's like, if shamelessness were a superpower, it would be yours. Which, I don't know. She's like, the shameless hero low. Ha, ha, ha. And I'm like, or the shameful villain. Mm-hmm. We'll just have to see from here. So yeah, she's like, you have to stay safe. Calamity corner. So yeah, she's like, I'm going to come back for you. Calamity corner. So she sings a song and everything, and it's very beautiful. And her luck ability floats through the air. And then who shows up? But she gets a coin, a golden coin. She gets a golden coin and looks over and then manages to see somebody walking away. Now, this is 7 years prior to the current timeline. And in the current timeline, 7 years later, we see the poster with the man with the white hair slicked back that we believe is X. So the hair is slicked back the exact same way as X. It's just black instead of white, which we've seen how fast Lin Ling's hair could turn to Nice's hair color. So hair color makes no difference in this world. It can change on a dime. So is this X that just happens to be there and gives her the coin? I don't know. I guess we'll find out later, right? But in any case, the gold coin, she's like, I have to become self-sufficient. She says, before I can go find him, I have to become self-sufficient. And I do really like that. I like that idea. She's like, I've got to be able to get my own resources. I can't just waltz back to the orphanage by myself. That won't work. I can't defend him against the dean. So she's like, I have to get enough money to get some help and then go from there. So I do really love the idea that she is not lucky for a while. She just doesn't immediately get the lottery luck. And I don't know if that's her own perception, that she doesn't believe she's lucky, or if her luck as an ability only works if it's helping someone else. That's a cool concept. If the whole time, I mean, that does bring into question how'd she survive the plane crash? Who did that benefit if her ability only benefits other people? Unless her surviving the plane crash benefited the reporter Liu, and that's how it translates. I don't know. But I do like the concept that if she considers herself unlucky, again, considering herself unlucky affects, from her perspective, her actual circumstance, or if her luck benefits others but not maybe directly herself. I think it's a cool concept. I like it. I like that she didn't just win the lottery, because it's like To Be Hero X. To Be Hero X if Cyan won the lottery. Like, we would have been in a such better situation. But yeah, so she doesn't win, and she has to go. I like the idea that she has to be self-sufficient. She has to make her own way. She doesn't have any luck, so she has to make. And I like that when she looks at her wrist, the trust value was the same as what Calamity's was when he showed her back at the orphanage. So she starts singing the song. And I like that people slowly start to bring her money, which is really cool. And then over time, she starts to gain more money by singing the song, and people really enjoy it. And they start leaving her money. She's able to go get some shoes. Now, the coin that is left to her that was gold does not look like the other coins in the cup that were left by other people. So is that a sign of it being... Oh, no, there's one. There's one there. Okay, so there were some that left her gold coins like that. Awesome. Nice. So I still think it was X, but we'll find out. So then we also see the return of CGI. Yay. So which I really like the 2D, but it's neat to see the CGI pop back in. Nice. So yeah, she ends up getting enough money to buy shoes. Girls got to have priorities. Those shoes look really comfy. Also has priorities. She's got a cheeseburger there. Super cute. Love that. Has a guitar case. And my heart broke. Like, also she gets these tights, which good for her to get new tights. For those down below, how do you keep them up? I don't understand. Unless you had a garter belt, how do you keep them tights? Especially the shorts. The shorts would like push them down. Dongwall logic, help me out here. How do y'all keep them up? Y'all have no curvy thighs, maybe. But yeah, it's so cute to see her like doing well. She's like taped the guitar back to help keep it all together. I do like that on each end of the guitar, one end is white and one end is black. That, oh God, that ties to not only her, but also ties to the Dean's original hero costume as well. There's no way the Dean is their dad. There's no way. There's no way. But that is an interesting connection, right? And it's kind of symbolic of her taping the guitar to keep it together to help herself. But at the same time, it's taking away a little bit of calamity with each passing moment, which is kind of sad. But anyway... So these two women recognize her from the church, and that's probably the part I hate the most, is that the way she kind of deflated once she realized that people from the church were starting to recognize her, because she's like, I don't want to get tied back into that lifestyle. I don't want to get tied back into that people taking advantage of me like that. She's like, no. Like, I could feel her anxiety through the screen, and I was like, girl, I feel that. Like, I want you to get away from that. So anyway, we meet this new... DOS head of this hero organization. I don't know. Other than Mr. Shang, none of these, and then the ominous, like, villainous hourglass. I tie hourglasses to, like, villainy now every time. Steins Gate has ruined it for me. Steins Gate has ruined the hourglass for me. Now it's like a villain symbol, or something symbol to antagonism. I don't know. I don't trust him at all. He looks like he's Miss J's uncle. Honestly, he has a Steve Jobs vibe to it. He even has like the J from the little lapel there. So I don't know if he's meant to be like based off of that. I don't know. We can question that. Steve Jobs was bald though, wasn't he? Anyway, None of these organization heads for the heroes give me any sense of good feelings. Mr. Shang is the only one that I'm kind of like, I see it. I see the compassion in him, and him losing his son makes me more empathetic towards him, but that may change as we go. That is one thing I do hope we see in this series, because so far, all of the agency CEOs, which, you know, not far off from reality, if I'm going to be honest. Most CEOs are kind of corrupt, or they got in that position by using some form of corruption. They didn't just get there on their own laurels. But not all, allegedly. Not all CEOs are like that, but a lot of them have been revealed to have been there through corruption. Just saying, allegedly, who knows? Not going to name names, but I would like to see in this series, because whenever Lin Ling came out as the commoner, there were a couple of the hero agency organization heads, like the one guy that was in the very modern looking place, like sitting on a bouncy ball. He seemed cool. He seemed chill. He seemed okay. So I hope this series gives us a little bit of depth and variety with the agency CEOs, and they're not all just bad guys waiting in the wings, because that's kind of predictable. You know, it's kind of like obvious. So I hope that we get some that are actually, maybe this guy will turn out to be decent. He just looks villainous. Maybe he just looks scary, but he actually turns out to be a good guy. I don't know. I'm questioning it based on the Calamity Corner we're going to get. But so Liu is still there after 11 years, or he's at least ended up here. Also, this man's little pin there, is he a jujitsu sorcerer? I'm just saying, it looks like a Jujutsu Kaisen pin. Is he a sorcerer? Is this Nanami's cousin? But yeah, Liu, also, can we just say Liu is freaking Paul Rudd? This man hasn't aged in 11 years. He's got like a forehead wrinkle, but still looks fine as hell. Good for him. Good for Liu. She's grown up in the blink of an eye. I really don't have a reason not to sign her. So yeah. Now, what's interesting is, he's like, you want to sign her on as a hero. What's interesting is, we don't know about Liu's daughter. So in the 11 years since her claim that she's going to be the top hero, what has happened? We don't get any of that. We're not told that yet, so that's a story for another time. But this guy's like, well, of course, I'm not evil at all. I'm going to sign her and everything will be hunky-dory. We're going to talk about that. So yeah, she just wants to get away from everybody, because rightfully so, she's kind of freaked out that these people are, you know, potentially going back to their old ways of relying on her for luck. And she's like, I just need to get out and get away from you all. And they're like, Sacred Mary. And she's like, please don't come after me. So I wanted to see what was on that like poster that's been X'd out. They don't show us. But we meet Kin. Oh, Kin. Kin is Knuff. She is there to try to sign on Lucky to the organization. I swear, all of these representatives for the organizations, Miss J, Kin, they're all following a very specific stereotype in their appearances. Although I do dig the tie. Like, look, when you go to sign a superhero, you pay attention to the fine details. Ma'am showed up in her cyan tie, ready to go. Love that for her. She's giving off the evil glasses vibe of a character, but you know what? Maybe we can trust her. Maybe we can. Who knows? Okay, so we have the DOS United group, and she's like, I'm here to ask you to join as a hero. And she's like, what? And that's when, again, you could not make it more obvious that Luo is going to become a villain when he's like, I'll make my number bigger and become a hero when I'm older. It's like, sure you will. Sure you will, Lo. Sure thing. I don't have any high hopes for him at this point. She's like, let's just discuss. So presumably, we don't exactly know how long she was busking. There are 2 years that take place between her escaping the orphanage and her first concert. 2 years. Now, how many of those years were spent busking and how many was preparing for the concert and being with the hero organization? I don't know. We don't know. We don't exactly know how that worked. We don't get to see that, and I'm kind of mad about that, because I'm like, I kind of want to see it. I was like, we need to know context. So maybe we'll get that back. Maybe we'll flash back to that next episode. I don't know. I do want to make note, the door that Lo is in, that like symbol on the front of the door looks like an eyeball, like an eye gazing in. That's creepy. I don't like that. Also, I have questions. I have lots of questions. So Lo there has a broken arm. His head's been injured. He's still listening to the radio. Our morning musical evening show. There's nothing in his room, which is terrible. We'll talk about whose hero, her popularity has skyrocketed because of her ability to bring people good luck. Now dubbed Lucky Cyan. Her heavenly voice also made her a hot singer. Ugh. Like, that's a little bit... I don't like that. But yeah, all his stuff is taken out of his room. She'll perform her first concert at the Commission Arts Center in District 20. I hate that they took all the stuff out of his room and just left him in this just empty room. Like, when did that happen? Has it been immediate? Has it always been that way? But he's still, like, happy at this point to hear her on the radio. The pre-sale tickets sold out immediately, so it'll be hard to get a ticket now. I don't know if that's relating back to the concert that Shin Chao got tickets for. I don't know. Many of us are disappointed to have missed it. So the dean comes in. Why? Again, Calamity Corner. Let us enjoy her beautiful voice over the airwaves. He's like, I was going to tell you about her, but you've already heard about it. For her sake, you'd best to forget her. And he doesn't seem like he wants to do that. He's like, I have one more thing to tell you about her. And then he says something in traditional, I'm going to say something revolutionary, and you're not going to get to know about it until the end. And I'm like, what could he have said to her? Could it have been, I mean, the most obvious thing would be that she stole his song and isn't coming back for him. She never intended, she used him to escape and left him behind forever, that she is his sister, and this was all pre-planned. Like, I'm trying to think, again, Calamity Corner, what he could have said to Lo to elicit, like he's very proud of what he said to Lo, but why would what he have said affected him from going to being, like, happy about her and her concert to causing a scene like this? Also, want to point out, before we get to Calamity Corner, this takes a lot of time to set up. This was not something that we just ordered overnight and they were already just there. No, this took time to set up, time to organize, time to construct, like months and months and months of preparation, advancements, everything else. Yep. All this and her performing has, like, the Lucky thing, whatever. I would like to imagine that Lucky's not a sellout. I would like to imagine she didn't sell out like Yang Chong, but I don't know. And she doesn't have her guitar anymore, so where did the guitar go? She's just singing. There's lots of guitars there, but where is the guitar that was given to her by Lo? Why isn't she using it? I don't know. Also, her outfit is ironically very similar to the outfit that she was wearing as the Shrine Maiden, just a more toned down, sexy version of it. But also, there's nobody on stage with her. There's no band. There's all these instruments, but there's no band. I feel like that's interesting. I don't know if it's just for this song. So she says, this is my first time officially back on stage after a long time. So again, her first concert after escaping the orphanage. But I had a very important friend by my side. He taught me the guitar and made me fall in love with music and taught me singing could be a very wonderful thing. And they're like, we didn't know about this. He left me with 3 things: the guitar, a song he wrote, and the determination to become a hero. So I'm like, he's not dead unless they've told you that and we've just seen it off screen and we need to be informed about this information. Okay, she does have his guitar. There we go. She grabbed the guitar that he had, started singing this song, so she still has his guitar. And then we cut to the one place. Again, there's all of the luck that is the ability that's coming off of her in the green light. And then we cut to the courtyard and it's like all of the purple lights and everything. That's purple is the opposite color. So yeah, everybody's been affected. There's all of this nasty, like, looks like a parasitic bacteria or parasitic thing coming off of them that's controlling them. That's so creepy. They look like spores. They look like spores. So, like, her good luck is leading off good luck spores. Is that bad too? Are the good luck spores infecting people? And if they don't keep getting the good luck spores, they turn into zombies? Is that how it works? Is that gonna, like, get people addicted to her abilities? Because these people all look like they're getting infected by the spores as well, and they're, like, coming out of them. Like, will the good luck spores affect negatively? And then where is Calamity? Where is he at? Where's Lo? Because then we go to the dean, and the dean though, if you look at the dean does not have any spores coming off of him or out of him. It seems like he isn't infected, but might be the one controlling the spores, but I don't know. Because then he, like, does that. I'm like, is he actually... Maybe it's not Lo. Maybe that's a fake out. Maybe this guy is controlling everything, but is he using Lo and Cyan? I don't know. Then we go to the credits, and we don't know. Okay, so I do want to talk Calamity Corner for a little bit, because I really like Lucky Cyan's character. I really like her character. She's very relatable. She's like, I instantly feel her plight. I feel for her. I was very mad in the reaction, because there were some things that were put out that I was like, but how and why and what? I was kind of disappointed at the end of the episode because of some things that seem like obvious story building things that maybe now next episode could prove me entirely wrong, and next episode they could give the backstory that they've left out of this episode, and I could be like, okay, that makes sense. Nope, you knew what you were doing, 2B Hero X, and I didn't have faith in you, and I should have had more faith in you. But there were things at the end of this episode that I was like, oh, but why? So we need to talk about this, because I like Lucky Cyan's character a lot. I love Calamity. I love his character. I really liked the bond that they had. I liked the symbolism. I liked this concept of luck and talking about it in relation to heroes. I liked the idea of talking about, like, what does that mean for them? Like, how does that work? How do we translate that to trust values? There's some really cool conversations going on. But the moment that I was kind of like, there were little things in this episode that, again, from a writing perspective, I am an English teacher, so I'm going to pick this thing apart as a writer would and as a critique of writing would. Whenever, like, the first thing was him grabbing Cyan. Girl should have luck, so she should be able to get away from him. Now, I'm willing to forgive that, because if her whole thing isn't really luck and it's perception, and she perceived herself being able to be captured by him, that solves that whole problem. So again, that doesn't bother me in the long run. I was just kind of like, But then later on, when she doesn't win the lottery, it kind of like cements that, right? I will say, even before finding out, like, we haven't confirmed his name is Malice as a villain, but it's like, the moment he's like, I'm Calamity, I'm like, you're going to be a villain. Like, it just... I wasn't as big of a fan of how obvious the fact that he's going to be a villain is. Now, if he doesn't become a villain next episode, and I am proven woefully wrong, I will give this show all of its flowers and be like, you had me convinced he was going to be a villain. I was wrong. That's impressive. Amazing. But the moment they were like, I'm a Calamity and I'm going to be a hero one day, I'm like, you could not be more obvious that he's going to become a villain and be pitted against Cyan. And it's kind of at this point a cycle and a pattern that I'm like, okay, show, is every arc going to have protagonist, could be friend turned antagonist pitted against them, and one of them dies or has a bad tragic ending? Is that going to be the rinse and repeat of this? I hope it's not, but it's like we're on arc number 4 now, and I'm kind of like, or arc 3, we've had Lin Ling and Moon and all that, and we've had Yang Chong and Xin Chao and all of that, so now we're on this. I'm hoping I'm wrong. I'm hoping that I'm just being pessimistic, and I'm not, and that's not going to be how it turns out. I'm hoping that's the case. We'll see. We'll see. But yeah, I did like all of the arc with her. Everything up until the hero organization took her in, I was 100% on board with. I was like, yes, I love all of this. But this is where the logic of this next part makes me scratch my head. So she gets taken in. By Kin. Liu works at the organization that took her in. Like Liu, the guy that found her, that took her to the orphanage, knows the address, went there himself, knows where she's from, has had this bleeding heart for her, works at the same place she did. Now, if she went to some random organization where nobody knew where she was from and nobody had any clue what was happening, I would be a lot more forgiving because I would be like, oh, well, nobody knows where the orphanage is. Nobody's ever been there. They don't know what to tell her. If she doesn't remember the exact location, they don't know what, they don't have any information to go off of, right? Because maybe she was kept in this cult and they never told her the address, so she doesn't know where to go. You know, I could believe that. But the moment you tell me that Liu is in the same place that is working in the same place she's an agent for, I'm like, he knows where to go. Even if she doesn't go herself, he could take a squad with him and go investigate the orphanage. You can't tell me he couldn't find that kid still alive in the orphanage. You couldn't tell me. And you think, like, she didn't tell him about the dean trying to kidnap her and keep her there? Like, did nobody talk? Like, that does not make any sense to me. So then you have the idea of Ken coming up to her in the alleyway, and what she says, she goes, you know, why don't you check the value of the trust on your wrist? And she's like, oh my gosh, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Ken of DOS. And she's like, oh, a hero. And then she thinks back of what Lo told her. And she says, I have one condition. Can you help me look for someone? And they said, of course. If you have some time, we'll find somewhere to sit down and discuss. Cut to 2 years later. What? So, look, why would you not have them investigate? Why would you not say, I won't join your hero organization unless you go back to me at the orphanage to make sure my friend's still alive? Why wouldn't you check that? And I know what you're thinking. You could be like, well, maybe they told her, we're not going to look for your friend until you make us a certain amount of money. That's messed up, but at least show us that on screen. At least show us that those were the conditions. And even if it were the case, you could have had a moment where Cyan went to Liu, the reporter, and was like, hey, I remember you. Can you go back and look for my friend to make sure he's even still alive, you know, while I'm doing this? Because that'd be a really shitty thing to do if I just abandoned my friend for 2 years, knowing that he was alive in the orphanage and didn't come to see him at all or check in on him to see if he was safe. Would be a really shitty thing to do. Like, why? Why would you not have someone go check on that? Why would that not be step number one? And even if the organization told you that they weren't going to do anything until you signed a contract and made the money, first of all, I'd be questioning that contract a lot, being like, you mean you can't go walk to this orphanage down the road and see if my friend's still alive? That's shady. That's weird. So I think that's odd. Why didn't you do that? Why didn't she? I would like to believe Cyan is not that absent-minded, considering her friend is that important to her. She mentions him at the concert. And also, you clearly don't think he's dead because you said he'd be okay. And if you didn't think he'd be okay and you really thought he died, then that should have been made apparent to the audience, or there should have been some kind of connection there or some kind of clue or something. He'll be okay. Like, that tells us you think he'll be okay. But and also, why would you think he'd be okay? The dean tried to kidnap you and hold you hostage and has clearly powers and held you up in the air. Why would you think he'd be okay? I'm like, I trust Lee Howlin to a standard of writing and creating them. Like, you wouldn't put this many plot holes in an episode, right? So maybe next episode will assuage all of my fears. But I was like, what are you talking about? And then there's the whole thing with Calamity. I have so many questions. First of all, has he been sleeping on the floor of this room for 2 years? Okay, you've tortured him for 2 years. Okay, he didn't try to get out. Okay, maybe he did try to get out. Maybe I assumed, because at first I was like, okay, this has been 2 years. Why does he have all these injuries? I'm assuming he's tried to escape for 2 years and the dean keeps stopping him and throwing him back into this room. He can't escape on his own. Okay, I guess the dean just gave him the radio to torture him, to let him hear about his friend and torture him. Or maybe she'd been out of the limelight on her own busking for years, and then he just kept the radio like as a lifeline to give him something. And then the dean found out the same time that Lo did that she was back and was a hero. Maybe, I guess that would make sense. And that part doesn't bother me. That part doesn't bother me. If Lo kept getting injured because he tried to escape and getting thrown back in, that makes sense with the dean's whole like evil persona, whatever. But then here's my thing. The dean comes in there and Lo is happy to hear about Cyan. He's happy to know she's alive and everything. He believes in her, has faith in her. The dean comes in being like, I'm going to tell you one more thing about her. And this severely impacts Lo to the point where he freaks out and maybe activates the negative side of his ability. Why does he believe this man that you know firsthand is a manipulator, and you know firsthand is an abuser, and you know firsthand you shouldn't believe anything he says? I feel like the answer is that people in the comments will be like, well, he was emotionally abused in Stockholm Syndrome, and to think, I'm like so done with that excuse. I know what happens to people in real life, but that is the go-to lazy writing strategy from any person that's like, well, he was just so psychologically traumatized, he believed him because he was the only person he was around. I'm gonna call bullshit. I'm so tired. That's lazy story writing. That's lazy writing. Be better. Be better. I'm like, there has to be something else. That doesn't make any sense. And I really like this series, but this was probably I didn't dislike this episode, but I hold this series to a really high standard, and people have talked so well of it that this episode made me go, that don't make no sense. So maybe I'm wrong. I know I talked a little shit about it this episode because some of the writing the math ain't mathing on some things, but I am going to say that maybe by the end of next episode, because we're clearly having the next episode, maybe we'll backtrack. Maybe some of my questions will be answered. Maybe that will be given an explanation, or not. Or it won't be. So, we'll see. We'll see. But I'm hoping that the series will backtrack a little bit and explain why certain very obvious logical steps weren't taken. We'll have to see on that one. But I love this series. I hold it to a high standard, and I want it to live up to that standard. And so maybe next week it will. Because I like Cyan. She deserves it. I love her character. And I love Calamity. They both deserve the best. And right now I don't feel like they're giving the best. So those are my 2 cents. It's my 2 cents anyway. No, nobody has to agree, but I'm not going to sit here and just pretend to not have an issue with something. I'm too old for that shit. So anyway, I'm really excited though. I'm really excited to see what happens in episode 10 because I want answers to some of these questions that we've posed in this episode. I feel like there are answers, and I feel like the things we find out in all of these arcs are leading to a very bigger picture. And I want to see what that bigger picture is as we go. So in any case, I am excited. I hope you all are too. I feel like when I get riled up and rant about things, people think that I hate the show. I don't hate the show. I'm just a little frustrated with some of the writing in the end of this episode because I've not seen the full context. I haven't seen the full vision. So we'll see where it goes. But anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, we'll see if our luck holds out, and I'll be back very soon to talk episode 10 of TBHX. And I'll see you then. Bye!